So real quick, before we get to Jamal Murray, there's a new Sporting Logically podcast with me and Tucker from Sporting Logically. You can find it on iTunes and Spotify. I got the links in the top comment of this vid. Anyway, let's talk about Murray now. He just got paid. The Nuggets gave him a max contract, and anything I say in this video, I just want to say beforehand, I'm not faulting Denver for giving him this because it's just the way the NBA is now. If they didn't give this to him, then some team with space would have offered it to him in restricted free agency. So you might as well do it. But it is still a max contract, and now Denver's cap situation is pretty much set until the 2022/23 season. So it seems like this is what it is. It's Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, Gary Harris, and whatever else around them, right? So they're hoping that Jamal Murray can be the second best player on this team, and this team can be a title contender. That's the goal. So is Jamal Murray really that good? Well, I think the biggest question for him going into the playoffs was basically that. Was he good enough to beat NBA defenses that were locked in on him? And I don't think he killed it, but I don't think he was terrible either. He was certainly better from a statistical standpoint against the Blazers than he was the Spurs, both of those series, of course, going 7 games. And I think my takeaway from the postseason with Murray is simply the talent is there, but he still needs to get better, right? In kind of all areas, I would say. I mean, in a perfect world, Jamal Murray is in the similar boat of, let's say, Kemba Walker, a point guard who can just kill you with three-pointers from any angle, off the dribble, pull-ups. If you don't get around the screen, if the big man doesn't step up, he can just rain threes on you, right? Well, whether it's just savviness in the pick and roll, the fact that he's simply not as good of a shooter as we would like at this very moment, Murray just doesn't frighten teams like that. I mean, I think you could argue that Trae Young is farther along in that department than Murray is, and that's mainly just off of the last couple of months for Trae, right? And I think that's step one, because if you look at the other stuff with Murray, like how he can beat defenders off the dribble and how he can finish through contact at the rim and draw contact as well, like I expect him to be solid at those things, but I don't think he'll be good enough to rely on that stuff over his shooting, right? I mean, you look at this previous season, he attempted 5.5 threes a game. That's good, but for him to really get to where we want him to be, I think he needs to be attempting around 7 to 8 to maybe 9 three-pointers a game. And I don't think it's as simple as just shooting them. I do think he needs to just get a little better at finding ways to get open, I guess. You can put some of this on Mike Malone as well. I think that's totally fair. I mean, we saw Steph Curry finally moving like crazy off the ball when Steve Kerr got there. But even so, I think while Murray has done a great job of playing off of Jokic with cutting, and of course the Murray screening for Jokic play is among the best in the league, but even so, I think there's another level to get to. Now again, Murray, he's already a good to very good player, but again, they're hoping that he can be the number 2 dude on a title team behind Jokic, so I'm kind of looking at everything from that angle. I think Jamal's playmaking definitely needs to take a jump as well. If we're operating that he's in the mold of the Kemba Walker, Kyrie, Dame type of point guards, then I'm not expecting him to ever be among the leading assist guys, and that's totally fine. But you got to do better than 4.5 a game, even with Jokic on your team. And it's more so than just the assists. Like when you actually watch Jamal Murray, it's not bad, but it certainly could be better with just spotting teammates that are open and things like that. And I think that's an interesting conversation is, like how much control over the game does Jamal Murray really have? And that just kind of goes back to everything with just general movement and getting better as a passer and being a leader and things like that. I know Jokic is the main dude, but, you know, number 2 guy, all that stuff again. Defensively, I think Murray tried more this year, so that's nice. I think that's all we can really ask of him defensively is to try. But the next thing to talk about, and this is moving more towards the Nuggets as a whole here, is if Jamal Murray proves to not be the number 2 dude that you really need for a title contending team, then is it possible that Denver could trade for that guy? Well, before I even get to that, it's possible Michael Porter Jr. is that guy. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, could they make a trade for that guy, like a Bradley Beal or whatever the hell else? I mean, I've heard in the Ben Simmons is going to get traded one day camp, I've heard Denver could be a team for that. Not saying I'm on either side of the discussion there, but if you search hard enough, you can find something like that. But, they owe their pick this year to OKC. I don't know if there technically being future protections on it right now affect your ability to trade it in 2021 or 22, even though we all know it's going to convey to OKC this year from the Jeremy Grant trade. Regardless, something like Gary Harris and a pick, I think, is a pretty good start for Bradley Beal. You probably have to throw more in than just that, but I would feel a lot more comfortable with Beal being thought of as the number 2 dude who can put up 25 to 30 a game next to Jokic, and then Jamal Murray being the number 3 guy, as opposed to what this team is right now. There's also a chance that Jamal Murray himself could be in some kind of a trade. Now, given that he just got a max contract, that would be a kind of tricky situation depending on the other team, but at the same time, if you're getting a great player, that dude's probably on a max anyway. So that could make the money a little easier to flip around, but if it's just Jamal Murray and stuff, that's probably not good enough to get you maybe one of the top 20 players in the league. I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely being a little general with the idea of a top dude getting traded, but with how much player movement and stars we've seen traded over the last couple of years, I'm just assuming it's going to keep on happening, and Denver could be ready to strike at any of those opportunities. And then the next interesting thing after that would be how aggressive would this front office be? I mean, if you've got Jokic, who is like 24, sure, you have a decent amount of time to go for this, but the years can creep up on you pretty quickly, so that's all an interesting thing. I guess where I end up on all this, to be a little mean to Jamal Murray, I don't think he can be good enough to be the second best player on a title team, especially with now the second best player on a title team equals either Anthony Davis, or maybe you think AD is better than LeBron at this point, Paul George, Russell Westbrook, or you're in the Eastern Conference and your road is significantly easier. And even then, the second best player on one of the East contenders is Ben Simmons. So can Jamal Murray really get into that stratosphere of those type of players? I don't think so. But he has gotten better every season. He was at times very good in the playoffs. So it could be in there. But if you force me to pick, I'm kind of erring on the side of no. But with that said, Denver's still in a really good spot. And a little preview of my standings predictions, which is going to come out at some point this offseason. I'm strongly considering having the Nuggets be the 1 seed. A lot of that because of health to like the Clippers and the Lakers and stuff, but still, this team's going to be really good. And then once again, new podcast with me and Tucker. Top comment to this video, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff.